Good Wednesday afternoon, guys. Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you for joining us. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. The network is comprised of every social media platform known to mankind, a daily e-newsletter that goes out to over 120,000 inboxes, our flagship website, ilovecville.com, and literally this show on every social media platform known to mankind. We're presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary on the Charlottesville Downtown Mall next to Rapture. David T. and his staff at Skooma Boutique Dispensary do business the right way. Certificates of analyses on everything CBD and Delta related. At Skooma Boutique Dispensary, you know what you're taking, where it's from, and what it will do to your body. If you have anxiety, pain management issues, if you want to sleep through the night, sleeping through the night's a tough one for me. Skooma and their CBD and their Delta can help you do that, guys, and David really does a good job. Ting Fiber Internet powers this network. It's crazy fast internet at Ting Fiber Internet, and the good doctor of Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine, changing people's lives. Who's got your back? Dr. Wagner's got your back. A lot of news on today's program. We'll talk about the permanent closure of Walter Slosky's The Shebeen restaurant at Vinegar Hill. I have a lot of fond memories of the Shebeen. I first visited the Shebeen as a third year at the University of Virginia and have been patronizing the business ever since. We'll talk the Shebeen in a matter of moments. We will highlight Animal Connection, Patty Zeller's business. Patricia Zeller was named the Pet Retailer of the Year in the United States of America. You heard me correctly. Of all the pet stores in the country, in the nation, in America, Patty Zeller just won Top Pet Retailer of the Year. She is a friend of not only this network, but of my family, my wife and our son, of Judah Wickower, our director. She routinely spoils Liza, the I Love CVille mascot, with treats from her store. She has been a long-term client of I Love CVille and VMV Brands, our advertising agency. Nearly 6 years we have worked alongside each other. She is an entrepreneur, unafraid of taking risk. She moved locations from McIntyre Plaza to Ix Park, took a longer lease and more rental square footage during a pandemic. Took a risk, it paid off. We will highlight her risk-taking. We will highlight the success of her business and why she was named the top retailer in America today on the I Love CVille Show. Red Pump on the Downtown Mall, Red Pump Kitchen, a restaurant owned by the couple behind Pippin Hill Vineyards. Red Pump Kitchen is pivoting its model, shifting its model from walk-in dining to private parties and cooking classes. We will highlight that pivot, and we will ask this question: what is in store for restaurants heading into Q3 and Q4 this year with Delta gaining momentum? The Shebeen closes Friday. Red Pump Kitchen changing its model to cooking classes and private parties that you book in advance as opposed to walk-in dining. Things are changing quickly. We will highlight some of those trends today. Richmond, Virginia is launching a civilian review board, and this task force has a lot of potential power. Tuesday night, City Hall in Richmond, the civilian review board is being molded into an independent office with its own budget, its own staff, its own office that's independent in City Hall, a group that can investigate, audit, internal study the police potentially. This is something that if it gains serious traction in Richmond, I would not be surprised if it influences the Civilian Review Board in Charlottesville. The Civilian Review Board in our town, very much a work in progress. An executive director is currently being hired as we speak. An executive director that's a six-figure job. So we will follow what happens in Richmond. We will relay to you what's going down, and we will ask the question, is this something that very well could transpire and follow to Charlottesville, Virginia. That topic in a matter of moments. Booster shots next month for COVID in this nation. Booster shots that, frankly, may be needed. They roll out next month. The Johnson & Johnson booster shots do not, but Moderna and Pfizer shots as early as next month. As data and as science shows, the COVID vaccine wanes or tapers down the further you get from vaccination. That topic on the I Love CVille show. We'll also talk mortgage rates on the rise and the impact it's having on home buying and the impact it's having on refinancing. The lead story, however, is the permanent closure of the Shebeen. I posted this on the I Love CVille Instagram. I encourage anyone that's watching this program to head over to Instagram now and to follow I Love CVille. We have the third largest Instagram community behind the city of Charlottesville and the University of Virginia. Then it's us at I Love CVille. I'm going to read the letter from Walter Slosky. Walter Slosky, a previous client of our advertising agency, a great guy, a guy who owns a sister business to the Shebeen called The Catering Outfit, a restaurateur that's been around for a long, long time. Here's his message to Charlottesville and Central Virginia. It is with great sadness that we announce the closing of the Shebeen Pub effective this Friday. Walter opened the Shebeen over 18 years ago as a passion project to bring the South African cuisine he experienced in his childhood to Charlottesville. The Shebeen grew into a place that has welcomed hundreds of thousands of guests and employed hundreds of people over the years. We are extremely humbled that so many embraced our restaurant and that we were able to succeed as long as we had. For a restaurant to survive and thrive in Charlottesville over 18 years is an accomplishment of which we can all be proud. We want to thank all of our wonderful guests and employees for supporting us over these past years. We could not have done it without you. It's Walter Slosky of the Shebeen. Couple of takes I have on the Shebeen, and then I'm curious of your take, what you were feeling when you found out that the Shebeen was closing. Okay? Couple of takes I want to get out there. Take number one. I've said so many times on this network, the most competitive business categories in Charlottesville and Central Virginia. From my standpoint, there's two of them. Restaurants, the most competitive category of business in Central Virginia, restaurants, Charlottesville and Albemarle County in particular. The second most competitive category to do business in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia is realtors, real estate sales, buying and selling of homes. There are a lot of realtors, 1,000 plus in Central Virginia. There's a lot of them. So if you're in the restaurant business, what I think is the most competitive category of business within 60 miles of Charlottesville, and you've celebrated more than 18 years of business success, keeping your lights on, your doors open, and the open sign lit, that first is reason to celebrate. 18 plus years of running a restaurant is cause to champion and celebrate the restaurateur and his team. Two, the second thing I want to highlight, Walter Slosky and the Shebeen. Walter Slosky consistently innovated and improved his business. Judah, you've worked with this firm for how long? Almost 10 years?
Yeah, 9 years.
9 years and change, is that right? Judah, do you remember walking into the Shebeen to meet with Walter Slosky when you first started here? Remember that? Working on his website? I've known Walter Slosky since my third year at the University of Virginia. This guy innovates and is willing to try new things all the time. Did you see what he did with his outdoor veranda, the deck in front of the Shebeen? This guy has a Class A contractor's license. He built that outdoor deck and veranda. The bar outside the Shebeen on the deck and the veranda has swings that you can sit in and swing, like a swing on a playground, but much classier. There are swings by the bar on the outdoor veranda. That outdoor veranda, that deck is one of the nicest in Charlottesville and in Central Virginia. You have fans, you have TVs. It's basically a completely different dining area. It is a completely different dining area. Walter Slosky's Peri Peri Wings, some of the best wings you will find in Central Virginia, bar none. The Shebeen, a home and an epicenter for soccer and football fans in Central Virginia. If there was a big soccer match going on, you undoubtedly saw fans clad in football jerseys, drinking cold beer, and watching soccer at the Shebeen. The happy hour at the Shebeen, affordable, approachable, and a welcomed destination for locals and students and tourists alike. Walter Slosky created a catering business after launching the Shebeen, gained traction with the catering outfit, and now the catering outfit, one of the premier catering choices for private events, weddings, and parties and functions of that ilk. So while it is a sad day in Charlottesville amongst foodies and fans of South African cuisine, fans of soccer, fans of bars and happy hours, fans of wings and South African fare, yes, it's bitter. It is a bitter pill to swallow, but it's bittersweet in some ways. Walter Slosky should be championed, accoladed, applauded, and revered. 100,000 plus customers, hundreds of jobs created, and 18 plus years of serving Charlottesville. Those are reasons to celebrate. I'll get to this question. That's a good question, Ray Cadell. We'll get to your question in a matter of moments. I'm now going to ask this question. The Shebeen closes Friday. Friday's his last day of doing business. After Walter and his staff move the Shebeen out of the restaurant, you have an empty and vacant shell. And the empty and vacant shell has tremendous potential. What do you get with this space if you're an aspiring restaurateur? You get parking right in front of the restaurant. You are downtown. Vinegar Hill is downtown Charlottesville. But you're downtown without the perceived parking issues because you have a lot right in front of you. You have a vast and spacious dining room. The Shebeen dining room is a great-sized dining room. You have a separate elevated inside bar that could probably seat 25 to 30 people at that bar. You have a deck and a veranda setting that's separate from your inside restaurant. And the deck and veranda setting is COVID-friendly. How many restaurants in the Commonwealth, in the country, in Charlottesville, in Central Virginia, would covet and love a veranda and deck setting like Walter Slosky and the Shebeen have? You got parking, you got COVID seating with this deck and veranda, you got an elevated bar, you got a pretty large dining room, you're centrally located to the city of Charlottesville. This space has tremendous potential for someone who has the cojones, the gumption, the courage, and the backbone to get in the restaurant game. I doubt this space will sit vacant for long. Jamie Turner, Mr. Woodbury Forest himself, one of the mayors of Gordonsville in Orange County. Jamie Turner says, Walter Slosky, Woodbury Forest, 1995. What a legend. Well said, Jamie Turner. Slosky, a UVA graduate. Slosky, while at UVA, was catering sorority and fraternity functions while as a student. realizes he has a knack and flair and talent for food and beverage, and opens up the Shebeen to pass along his love for South African cuisine to Charlottesville. 18 plus years later, the business says farewell on Friday. He did this right. Ray Cadell asked this question: how does the Shebeen closing impact Vision Barbecue? I think they are physically connected. I love the Q at Vision Barbecue. That's a great question, Ray Cadell. I was wondering the same. I was wondering the absolute same. I will reach out to the Vision Barbecue guys to see how that closure of the Shebeen impacts the Vision Barbecue business. That's a very good question, Ray Cadell. Between today and close of business Friday, we should patronize and support Slosky and this business. We should buy out all their food. We should kick the kegs, finish the bottles of booze at the bar, empty the walk-in, empty the dessert fridge, and everything they have. And we should say thank you to Walter Slosky and his staff for running a business the right way. All right, let's shift from the closure of a business to spotlighting a business that's gained tremendous traction, market share, and momentum since COVID outbreak early last year. Patty Zeller and Animal Connection. Patty Zeller, friend of this program, long-term client of VMV Brands, our advertising agency, yesterday named the Pet Retailer of the Year in the United States of America. You think Charlottesville, you think Central Virginia. I'm sure you can count a handful of pet stores that are serving the area. The best is Animal Connection at Ix Park, and it's not even close. The reason I said I'm sure you can count a handful on one hand is because this is a relatively competitive category. No, it's not as competitive as restaurants or realtors, but it is a competitive category. You have a national player, a national brand that's in Fifth Street Station. You have some locally owned brands. One of them, Patty Zeller's Animal Connection, the Retailer of the Year. This businesswoman, during COVID, made the risky move of leaving McIntyre Plaza, where she was for 18 years, Patty? How many years in McIntyre, Patty? 15, 16, 17 years? 18 years? She leaves her home, the first retail location she's ever known, and during COVID, she decides to make the move from McIntyre to Ix Park. She adds extra years to her lease. She adds additional square feet to her retail footprint, increasing her overhead. She hires more people to service the extra footprint, the extra retail footprint. She does a joint venture business partnership with Lead the Way Canine Training, where Lead the Way is doing animal training at the back of Animal Connection. She expands her dog grooming business. She expands her self-serve dog wash business. She signs I don't know, how many pages are in your lease, Alan Kajin? You know I got respect for you, Alan Kajin. Alan Kajin and Ludwig Kutner own Ix Park. Alan Kajin is one of the most powerful commercial landlord owners in Charlottesville. He lives a bi-coastal lifestyle. California, some time spent here in Virginia, but mainly out of San Francisco. Alan Kajin is an attorney by day, a commercial landlord the other hours of the day. His leases are iron-clad leases, straight-jacket type leases. You would agree with that, Alan. Your tenants would agree with that as well. Patty goes from McIntyre in a smaller footprint to Ix in a larger footprint with more years on her lease She's leasing from Kajin, one of the dot the I's and cross the T's landlords in this game. He's seen everything and thought of everything else. She hired people. She did a business partnership with Lead the Way Canine Trading, and she did all of this during a pandemic. She realized as people were staying home more and more during the pandemic that the adoption of four-legged furry friends was going to be more frequent and more prolific. And her vision, her gamble, her bet proved to be right. Now heading into her 20-year anniversary for her business, which is September, her model is humming at levels it's never hummed before, and industry stakeholders and experts have recognized her as the retailer of the year in the nation. That is a success story that we champion at I Love CVille. When you see Patty Zeller, you give her props, you give her some kudos, and you give her some praise. All right, let's talk restaurants and Red Pump Kitchen. You know, we've all been wondering what the hell is going on with Red Pump Kitchen. Red Pump Kitchen's got some of that Corn Capshaw money. Red Pump Kitchen has some of that Lynn Easton money, the Pippin Hill Vineyards money. They are backed, Red Pump Kitchen, by deep-pocketed movers and shakers. Red Pump Kitchen was one of the first restaurants to shut down last year during the pandemic. Red Pump Kitchen has not opened since. Well, now we know a little bit more what's cooking in the kitchen at Red Pump Kitchen. Red Pump Kitchen will now begin offering cooking classes starting in September. The restaurant is shifting its focus from walk-in diners to personal and private events and cooking classes. Red Pump Kitchen is offering classes for up to 8 people, taught by a Red Pump chef. The classes cost 95 B's, 95 bones, 95 bucks, $95, 95 $1 bills per person. You make reservations online. The ownership team of Red Pump Kitchen has hotel properties and restaurant properties, vineyard properties, event properties, catering brands. They have businesses and brands in other states. They see trends ahead of a local mom and pop. And when a Red Pump Kitchen chooses to shift or pivot its model to cooking classes, private parties, and events planned well in advance, as opposed to catering the demand of diners walking off the downtown mall into their restaurant, that is a sign. That is a sign. Red Pump ownership and leadership is saying, we're going to change what we're doing in here. We're concerned about Q3 and Q4 and this Delta variant, and we're going to shift our model to something that is potentially more COVID safe. This is called reading the tea leaves and understanding key performance indicators. And what KPIs and tea leaves tell you are how you can make hedged and informed decision making. I know the ownership team and leadership team at Red Pump Kitchen has brands and businesses up and down the eastern seaboard. They have a lot of money. Corn Capshaw is part of this ownership group. They chose, instead of serving people walking in off the downtown mall, to focus on private parties and cooking classes. Read the tea leaves, my friends. Understand the KPIs, viewers and watchers. Red Pump leadership is hedging its business in Charlottesville and trying to limit as much exposure, literally and figuratively, to COVID-19 as possible. That's literally what's happening here. 84 people, students and staff, in quarantine at Patrick Henry High School. 84. I'm going to give you the gist of what happened. Patrick Henry High School is outside Martinsville, Virginia. Patrick Henry High School this week is the second week the students have been back to school. Of the 84 in quarantine, 3 of them are staff, and the rest are students. 81 are students. Already, 8 people from the high school. This is day 6 at This is day Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. This is day 6 at Patrick Henry High School. Day 6 today. And already in day 6, 84 are in quarantine, and 8 individuals from Patrick Henry High School have tested positive for COVID-19. The exposures are happening in hallways and classrooms, poorly ventilated structures of highly trafficked individuals in hallways. How would you describe going from one class to another class in 3 minutes or 4 minutes in a school? The bell rings, you get out of your seat, and before the next bell rings, you have to be seated at your next class, and at the desk of your next class. I would say the hallways are congested and highly trafficked. Would you not? I think you would. I do not want to hyperbolize. I want to be frank, realistic, and to the point. I trust people that are smarter than me. Last week, Lee Elberson, the CEO of Claiborne Education, a friend of the program, and an individual whose career is invested in education, a man who is connected with principals and superintendents and boards of directors at schools and colleges and universities, elementary, middle, and high school, all over the country and certainly in Central Virginia. He says there's no shot we make it to Thanksgiving with in-person school. He said that on the microphone in this chair next to me last week. Patrick Henry High School is on day 6 of being in session, Martinsville Area High School. And already 84 people are in quarantine. 81 of those are students, and 8 people from the high school have already tested positive for COVID. This is in day 6. The value proposition of a private school education, again, has never been greater. Think about what the public schools are dealing with right now. And let's take the public schools in Charlottesville and Albemarle County to localize it, to personalize it, to humanize it. The public schools in Charlottesville and Albemarle County don't have enough school bus drivers to get kids to and from school. That means students that ride the bus are going to be riding on the bus longer than ever before because routes are being combined or meshed together because they don't have enough bus drivers to drive the tin cans around the city or the county. School buses, I can make a legitimate argument, are frankly some of the most dangerous places to stand, to walk, to sit, to breathe in Charlottesville or Albemarle County. You have a bunch of kids who haven't been masked on a bus without wearing masks in a poorly ventilated environment that's small and cramped. When the students are able to get to the public schools, they're in buildings that are not clean to the level they should be. They're in buildings that are not ventilated at the level they should be. They're in buildings that are crowded and cannot offer the 6 feet of social distancing like they should be. The students are in buildings amongst peers that have not been vaccinated. 12 and under, you haven't been approved for the vaccination yet. You're walking from class to class rubbing shoulders with every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's your age that goes to school. Then you're getting on a tin can, riding the bus for longer than ever before, and you're going home to see your parents. The private schools, on the flip side, don't seem to be having any of these difficulties. We're not reading about transportation issues. Many of the private schools are using their vast campus and acreage on campus to do outdoor classrooms. The private schools by nature have a smaller student-teacher ratio, so there's less students in the school. You're not hearing of sports being canceled. You're not hearing of COVID outbreaks. You're not hearing of learning fatigue or learning loss because the curriculum's not being reinforced to the extent it should be. You're looking at a second year of the haves having and the have-nots have not having it. And that's a kick in the... That's a gut punch. That's a little more politically correct than what I was going to say. That's a gut punch. I think we'll really see what goes down in the next 30 days. Heck, the next 3 weeks. County and city residents go to school, City, Charlottesville, Albemarle County. And we'll have more data from Louisa, Fluvanna, and Greene. They're in session now. That over-under, I'm not ready to move it forward. The over-under is Thanksgiving. And whether you say over or under the Thanksgiving date of school pivoting to hybrid or digital virtual learning only because of COVID outbreaks, I'm not willing to move it from Thanksgiving to Halloween yet. But I have a feeling next week we're going to be seeing a lot more of this Patrick Henry High School news in '84 in quarantine. And if we see a lot more of this around the Commonwealth, and as it gets closer to Central Virginia, maybe the I Love CVille odds makers take that over-under of Thanksgiving and slide it forward to Halloween. News out of Richmond that I find very intriguing. They're going through similar trials and tribulations with their police civilian review board in Richmond. Tuesday night, they held a town hall. The civilian review board in Richmond, leadership in City Hall is contemplating making it its own independent office, funding this independent office by taxpayer dollars, having an executive director and staff that report to the executive director, along with the volunteers on the board that work hand in hand with the executive director. The Civilian Review Board in Richmond, it's being contemplated that the board could receive and investigate complaints, make binding disciplinary decisions, review police policy and make new recommendations, audit police data, create public police reports, and review the Richmond Police Department budget and make budgetary recommendations. This suggested model included giving the board subpoena power and the power to review complaints made prior to the board's inception. It sounds like a lot like internal affairs, but internal affairs run by civilians and not people with a policing background. The reason I bring this up to you is a lot of the stuff that happens in Richmond, a left-leaning city, trickles over and influences the city of Charlottesville, just 55, 60 minutes away, another left-leaning city, Charlottesville. Here's a perfect example. Richmond, Virginia, Mayor Stoney mandated every city employee get vaccinated in Richmond. Charlottesville City, doing the same. If Richmond, Virginia creates the civilian version of internal affairs, I would bet you a buck Charlottesville Civilian Review Board will be molded in similar fashion. Charlottesville Civilian Review Board is in the process of hiring a six-figure executive director. The identity, the brand that is Charlottesville's Police Civilian Review Board is still being shaped, molded, and formed. It's like Play-Doh right now. And this Play-Doh is being crafted into a more permanent structure, just like what's happening in Richmond, Virginia. And speaking of mandates for everyone, Richmond, Virginia's fire and police unions are opposing Mayor Stoney's mandate that all city workers get vaccinated. Mayor Stoney responded to these unions and said, if you guys don't get vaxxed, you could get pink slipped. You can get shit canned, fired, let go, axed, hit the road, Jack. You have an OK Corral standoff between the unions, fire and police in Richmond, and City Hall in Richmond. When it's all said and done, if Stoney is willing to fire people for not getting vaccinated, if he follows through on that, I can bet you that will influence other municipalities like left-leaning Charlottesville as well. Booster shots next month in the United States. Booster shots coming next month for those that have gotten either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccination. People who received 2 doses of either Pfizer or Moderna are eligible for a booster shot 8 months after their last dose. No booster shot yet for Johnson & Johnson vaccination, the one I got. Judah, which one did you get? Moderna? You got Johnson & Johnson? No, one and done. No booster shots yet for one and done, Judah and Jerry. But if you got the Pfizer vaccination or the Moderna vaccination, you are eligible for a booster shot if it's been 8 months since your second dose. CDC has said, look, these vaccines are waning and are not protecting people like they should. We recommend a booster shot. The Delta variant is no joke. CDC. Just wrap your head around this. Wrap your head around this. We're going to be getting a shot or a booster shot every single year for this vaccine, for this pandemic, for this COVID. It's just going to be like the flu shot. And you know what? If the pandemic doesn't happen during a presidential election, and it happened last year in a presidential election that was arguably one of the most, how would you describe the election, Judah, last year?
Shit show.
Combative, bombastic, divisive, mudslinging, nation dividing. Can you think of a more divisive election in the United States than the Trump-Biden election? And what was the lightning rod topic during the Trump-Biden election? This pandemic, COVID, right? If this pandemic, if COVID had happened this year, 2021, during Biden's first term, or if it happened during the first year of Biden's term, or the first year of Trump's term, we wouldn't have politicized masks and vaccines. They wouldn't have become such a lightning rod issue, such a divisive topic. If the pandemic had happened during Trump's first year, during Biden's first year in office, instead of an election year, we would be we'd all be rolling up our sleeves, exposing the veins in our arm and saying, "Prick me, doctor, prick me, nurse, prick me, PA, and give me this modern marvel of medicine. Please," begging for it. Instead, it transpires during election year, is utilized as a leverage point for both parties, and divides the country. And now we're left with 50% of the United States being vaccinated and the other 50% seemingly refusing. And that, my friends, is the absolute negative of politics. If COVID starts in March of 2021 instead of March of 2020, vaccination rates are through the roof, much higher than they are now, and masks are worn inside and out by millions more Americans than are doing now. Instead, 1 out of 2 people in the country are unprotected. Putting on a mask, for some, is akin to the government telling you what you should believe in, what you should read, and what religious entity you should follow. Just a crappy situation. The last topic before I get to your comments. Last one before I get to your comments, okay? And if you have any comments or you want something, if you want something read or mentioned on air, if you have a topic you want me to give you some take or perspective on, or if you have something for tomorrow's show, please put it on the comment section. Mortgage rates have hit their highest level in a month. And as mortgage rates are going up, demand is dropping. The average rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage increased to 3.06% last week. Before that, it was right around 2.99%. So you're talking a 0.07 increase in rates. 0.07 increase in rates week over week. And that 0.07 increase in rates had this impact on the marketplace. Are you ready? KPI number 1. Applications to refinance a home loan fell 5% last week from the previous week. KPI number 2. Mortgage applications to purchase a home fell 2% for the week and were 19% lower than a year ago. I'll give you that one again. That one's huge. Mortgage rates went up 0.07% week over week. And because of that incremental increase, 0.07% of mortgage rates, you saw applications for 30-year fixed mortgages fall 2% week over week and 19% year over year. Jesus. Good God. 19% year over year. We've said on this network a number of times, the stabilizing or the balancing of this market, it's such a seller's market right now. Buyers have their back against the wall, and they're competing against all cash offers. They're competing against multiple offer scenarios on a frequent and consistent basis in this market. But as rates rise, purchasing powers diminish. And as rates rise, And as purchasing power is diminished, the market gets more equalized or balanced. Perhaps the rise in rates, and good Lord, 3.06% is cheap freaking money, man. The first place I ever bought, it's a rental property right now. The Villas at Southern Ridge. I have a condo there, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a den. I rent it for just under $1,600 a month. I got that piece of property when? 2008? 2008? 6%, 6.18%. I remember getting that loan at 6.18%. Getting the keys to my first place, my parents come a few hours later to congratulate their son on buying his first place. And one of the first things my father said to me, the interest rate that I had on my first place was like 16, 17%. Yours is 6.125%. He used the term in 2008 with me while standing in the condo that's now a rental property. I plan to pass the rental portfolio down to our son. He stood in the living room of this rental property and he said, Jerry, this is cheap money. So before people make a big to-do about 3.06%, realize that my parents, heck, our friend Keith Smith from Real Talk, his first house, 18% interest rate. 3.06% is cheap money. But it does diminish purchasing power, and it does remove potential buyers from the ecosystem. Increased rates may in fact balance this market and remove all the chips or the momentum from the seller side and create more of a balanced market so buyers have a chance to get in there, to scrap around, and to potentially buy a dream home of their choice. 19% drop in applications year over year. That is a startling statistic. A startling statistic, my friends. Oh, man. Johnny Ornalis is a comment. I love you, Johnny Ornalis. Johnny Ornalis says, talking about schools, Johnny Ornalis owns El Mariachi and Zion's Crossroads. If you have not been to El Mariachi and Zion's Crossroads, you're missing some of the best Mexican food in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You go to El Mariachi and Zion's Crossroads, you get the cheese appetizer, the cheese dip appetizer. You get one of their margaritas, jumbos, rock and salt. Maybe some fajitas, save some room for dessert. You'll leave happy and pleased. He says, talk about schools, Jerry. I just drove past Scott Stadium on move-in day, and guess what I saw? 50-50 mask on with students at UVA. 50 had them on, 50%. 50% had them off. Thank you for the update, Johnny Ornalis. Vanessa Parkhill, welcome to the broadcast. Jeff Barksdale, hello. Nicholas Erpy, the social media ninja, hello. Jeannie Pettiford, welcome to broadcast, hello. Let's go to Grayson. He routinely watches the program. We love you on this network, Grayson. Jerry, I love today's show. I agree with your take on the Shebeen. I have memories of going to the Shebeen as a single person and now memories of going to the Shebeen with my wife and daughter. It has truly come full circle for me, from my single days closing down the bars to now happy hours with my daughter and my wife. Thank you for the program. Nick Erpy, hello there, Jerry. I love watching the show. I just saw your comment come in, Nick. I love when you watch the show, Nick. It's nice to see you, my friend. Vanessa Parkhill has these comments. Too often, Vanessa Parkhill, we love you. We love you, Vanessa. Too often, those who hold the purse strings ultimately wield the power. Once a police civilian review board becomes part of the budget, we must question how independent they continue to be. Excellent comment, Vanessa. Oh, man. I just got an update from a mom of two who's watching in Richmond, Virginia. She's a mom of two. She's a business owner. Her name is Sarah, and she watches the show routinely. Jerry, I have a school update from our school in Richmond. 11 student cases, 1 teacher case, 7 quarantine classes. They have stopped sharing that info, though. 1 parent reports call went out today to pick up students in another class for more cases and another class quarantine. Estimated more than a third of our school has been quarantined. Parents receiving calls from VDH today from close contact from exposures 5 to 8 days ago. They said they are all backed up. It's a total mess at our school in Richmond. Thank you for your show. I watch as much as possible. There you go. That's a mom at a school in Richmond. Her name is Sarah Milston. 7 classes have been quarantined. More than a third of the school quarantined. We're in our 2nd week of school. So frustrating. Stupid COVID. She sends me another tweet. Appreciate you watching, Sarah. I think you should move the over-under date to Halloween. There's no way we get to Halloween with in-person school. Love your show. Ugh. Ugh, ugh, ugh. All right, tomorrow's program. We have 2 entrepreneurs on the show. We have Chris Hornsby and Nakahili Inseong. Nakahili, if I'm messing up your name, I'm sorry. I will get it right tomorrow on the show. They own Tattoo and Massage on West Main Street. I'm going to ask the owners of a tattoo parlor and massage parlor their plans for innovation in staying alive during a pandemic. Tattoo parlor, massage parlor, restaurant, concert venue, wedding venue. Those are the most precarious business models for this pandemic. One of the most precarious models, a tattoo parlor and a massage parlor on West Main Street. We will chat and interview the owners of this business and ask them straightforward questions like, what will you do to survive Q3, Q4, the winter and flu months in this town? I appreciate them coming on this show and answering questions like this. Today was a good one. Thank you for joining us on the Wednesday edition of the I Love CVille Show. We're presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. We will see you tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Today y Mañana. Alex Erpy and Xavier Erpy on Today y Mañana, 10:15 a.m. And then the I Love CVille Show at 12:30. Hasta luego. So long. Take care.